What if I told you that some people are allowed into Canada before their background checks are even finished? What if those checks involve terrorism or organized crime? In this video, you will hear real testimony from a House of Commons committee that raises serious questions about Canada's asylum system. You will see how policies made to be fast and kind may also be putting Canadians at risk. You will hear real examples where serious security risks were missed. From missed warning signs to real cases that shocked officials themselves. This video breaks down what is really happening and why it matters to you, your family, and Canada. Stay with this video because each part reveals something even more concerning.
People's backgrounds, particularly for terrorism or organized crime backgrounds, then we'll attract those people into Canada.
The next conversations start with a question that most Canadians never imagined needed to be asked. It is not about how many people come to Canada. It is about when Canada decides it is safe to let them in. A member of Parliament is asking why some asylum claimants are entering Canada while their background and security checks are still not finished. Think about that for a moment. If the checks are not complete, what information is still missing? And who takes responsibility if something goes wrong later? This part matters because it challenges a basic assumption most people have, that security comes first and paperwork comes second. What you are about to hear next shows why this is not just a policy question, but a real-world problem with real consequences. The next part reveals a case that will make many viewers ask how far this system can fail before someone gets hurt.
Mr. Thomas, I'm going to like to start with you, sir. It has recently come to light that some asylum claimants are being admitted into Canada before their background checks are fully completed. That's something you alluded to in your opening testimony. Considering your known stance on the need for rigorous security measures, how do you assess the potential security implications and dangers associated with the current asylum processing system?
Do you know how it is even possible that people can be approved for permanent residency before a serious security threat is discovered? This question matters because permanent residency is not a small step. It opens the door to Canadian society, rights, and eventually citizenship. If a mistake is made at this stage, it is not easy to fix, and the risk does not stay on paper. It enters real communities. In Next, David Thomas talks about a real and alarming case. A father and son were in the advanced stages of planning a mass terror attack in Toronto, yet Canada had already granted them permanent residency and was close to granting citizenship. Even more shocking, the warning did not come from Canada's own system. It came from the United States. This raises a deeper question. If this case made it this far, what else is being missed? The next part pushes this concern even further and shows just how serious these failures can become. Key points need to listen carefully. Failing to act on clear warning signs creates serious security risks. Weak screening makes Canada look like an easy target. Terrorism and organized crime checks must come before speed.
Well, I think the proof is there, right? I mean, do we remember the El Diddy family, the father and son that were in the advanced stages of planning a mass terrorist attack in Toronto? And we were advised by the Americans about this. We'd already granted those folks permanent residence, and we're about to grant them citizenship.
Is it even possible that someone with a terrorism connection could make it through Canada's screening system? This question matters because Canadians expect that any link to terrorism is an absolute stop. If that fails, it is not just a process issue. It is a direct threat to public safety and national security. In Next, you will hear David Thomas talks about a case where an individual appeared in an ISIS video years earlier. Despite this clear warning sign, Canada failed to properly identify and stop the person through its screening process. He describes this as reckless and warns that when background checks are not done thoroughly, Canada creates serious risks for its people. Key points need to listen carefully. Known warning signs were not properly acted upon. Terrorism-related backgrounds should never be missed. Weak screening undermines public safety. Failures like this damage trust in the entire system.
El Diddy, I think his name was the senior, was filmed in an ISIS video in 2015 where, some poor person was being beheaded. I mean, we have been reckless. I'm sorry to say that. What you permit, you promote. And if we're not doing a thorough job of checking people's backgrounds, particularly for terrorism or organized crime backgrounds, then we'll attract those people into Canada. We will attract those people into Canada.
Do you know how a simple policy change can quietly create big security problems for a country? This question matters because immigration and visa policies are not just paper decisions. They shape who comes in, how fast they come in, and how much risk a country is willing to accept. When security is relaxed, the consequences are not immediate, but they can be serious. Next, you will hear David Thomas talks about a major decision Canada made in the past, dropping visa requirements for Mexican nationals. He says this decision may have contributed to increased cartel activity. He also makes a very clear point. It is not wrong to slow down applications if it means keeping Canada safe. He says Canada should not second-guess its right to know who is entering the country and what their background is before letting them in. Key points need to listen carefully. Visa policies are not just about travel. They directly affect security and law enforcement inside Canada. Slowing down applications is not being unfair. It is being responsible when safety is at stake. When Canada hesitates or doubts its own authority, it sends a signal that rules can be pushed.
Another big mistake we made, which was dropping the visa requirement for Mexican nationals in 2016. I think we're seeing evidence of cartel activity. I don't think it's wrong for us to inconvenience people, to hold up their applications for a little bit longer. We're somehow second guessing ourselves as to whether this is right or not, and we shouldn't second guess ourselves. We have a right to know if people have a terrorist or organized crime background before we admit them into Canada.
Do you know how easy the first step into Canada really is for some asylum claimants? This question matters because the first step is often the most important one. If the system is too light or too quick at the start, serious risks may never be caught later. Canadians expect strong control from the very beginning, not after problems appear. In this part, Kostas Menegakis describes what is called a one-touch system. A person arrives, has a short face-to-face meeting with an officer, answers basic questions, and then biometrics like eye image and thumbprints are taken. After that, the person is given a questionnaire to take home and is allowed up to 45 days to complete it on their own. This raises serious questions about how much information is actually verified at the start. Key points need to listen carefully. A short interview cannot reveal someone's full history or intent, especially when security risks can be hidden. Giving people forms to complete on their own relies heavily on honesty, not verification. The system appears designed for speed and convenience, not for deep security review. When the first screening is weak, every step after that becomes more dangerous and harder to fix.
Recently, we've heard testimony at this committee, having implemented a one-touch system. Basically, when somebody comes into Canada, they have an initial face-to-face with an officer where some initial questions are asked. And following that, a biometric is taken, a picture of their eye and their thumbprint, and then they're provided a questionnaire to take home with them, and they have 45 days to self-complete this form.
Do you know that some people are allowed to live freely in Canada before their background checks are even finished? This matters because during this time, people have access to communities, services, and freedom of movement. If a risk is present and not caught early, it becomes much harder to handle later. Canadians expect that before someone enters the country, basic safety checks are complete. In next, Kostas Menegakis explains that during the 45-day period after the initial meeting, people are allowed to go about their lives without completed background checks. The system is designed to speed up entry and make the process easier, but this creates a significant gap in security. It means that someone who could be a threat is already inside the country before authorities know the full story. Key points need to listen carefully. Canada must balance efficiency with protecting citizens and communities. The speed-first approach creates a gap where risks can slip through. Relying on follow-up after entry is not enough to ensure safety. During this initial period, people have free access to Canadian society without full security oversight.
In those 45 days, they're allowed into the country to go on with their lives without us having completed the background check effectively. They call it an initial stage to help people come through faster. How do you think? What do you feel about that system? I wonder if you could provide any comments on that.
Do you know that Canada's system might be inviting people to take advantage of it? This matters because when policies are too loose, people who should not be here find ways to enter, and legitimate claims can suffer. Canadians expect that the system is fair but also secure, without creating loopholes for abuse. In Next, you will hear David Thomas talks about how other countries, like Australia, handled asylum claimants differently. In Australia, they controlled where claimants stayed, and that led to a significant drop in abuse. He suggests that Canada, by releasing people freely into the population, is creating an invitation for people to take advantage of the system. This shows the importance of structure and control in the asylum process. Key points need to listen carefully. When people are released into the general population without control, the system can be abused. Other countries have shown that stronger management reduces false claims and abuse. Loose policies can harm both Canadians and legitimate refugees. Balance between humanitarian duty and security is essential for a functioning system.
I think we're inviting people to take advantage of us. And I know that Australia years ago was having a big problem with people, asylum claimants. And when they decided that they were going to park all their asylum claimants on an island, I can't remember exactly where it was, but rather than releasing people into the general population, they put them all onto a specific location. And suddenly they found, wow, suddenly the numbers dropped immensely.
Do you know that even with legitimate claims, the system can be abused if it's too open? This matters because Canada has a humanitarian duty to protect refugees. But if the system is too easy to enter, it invites abuse. This can overwhelm resources, slow down help for real refugees, and put Canadians at risk. In Next video, David Thomas clarifies that many asylum claims are genuine. However, he warns that Canada is making it too easy for people to abuse the system, creating an open invitation for abuse. Kostas Menegakis also asks a quick question about immigration consulting companies using unregulated foreign agents, highlighting how loose oversight can create additional risks. Key points need to listen carefully. Legitimate claims must be protected, but systems that are too open can be exploited. Abuse damages the entire immigration system and slows help for real refugees. Foreign consultants and unregulated agents can create fraud risks. Strong oversight and control help safeguard both Canadians and genuine claimants.
Because, again, I'm not saying that everybody is an illegitimate asylum claimant. I'm not saying that at all. I've dealt with some very legitimate claims myself. They do exist, but we are making it an open invitation for people to abuse the system. And we should be very careful about that.
I only have a few seconds left, so let me ask you this. Are you aware of any immigration consulting companies in Canada outsourcing some of their services to immigration consultants in other countries that are not regulated?
Do you know how immigration consultants operate abroad and why that can affect Canada? This matters because many consultants use agents in other countries who are not properly regulated. If these relationships are not monitored closely, fraud, abuse, and mistakes can happen, and Canada may lose control over who enters the country. Our last, David Thomas explains that consultants in Canada often have foreign agents to help process applications. As long as these agents are registered, they are not really regulated, and Canada does not always look closely at what they are doing. This creates a gap in oversight and potential for abuse, which can impact both Canadian security and the fairness of the immigration system. Key points need to listen carefully. Foreign agents are often not fully regulated, creating opportunities for fraud. Limited oversight makes it hard to ensure applications are handled correctly. This lack of control can compromise Canada's immigration system and public safety. Stronger monitoring of consultants and agents is needed to protect Canadians and legitimate claimants.
Well, there's a system for consultants in Canada to have agents in foreign countries, which is how they generate a lot of their business. And as long as they register them, they're not really regulated agents. And of course, I don't think we really take a close examination of what's really happening there in these relationships. Obviously, I've dealt with some cases where it hasn't been.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
This video highlights serious warnings from inside Canada's own immigration system. We saw how policies designed for speed and convenience can create gaps, how real security risks can be missed, and how the system can be abused by people or unregulated agents. Canada must strike a balance, protect real refugees and legitimate claimants, but also protect its citizens and communities. Strong screening, thorough checks, and proper oversight are essential. For more in-depth breakdowns, latest Canada current affairs, immigration updates, and permanent residency news, subscribe to Canada Insight Network.